Good evening, councillors and officers, members of the public in the gallery and those who are following the council meeting on our live stream. Welcome to the June meeting of Corangamite Shire Council. I'd like to begin with a prayer. We ask for guidance and blessing on this council. May the true needs and well-being of our communities be our concern. Help us, who serve as leaders, to remember that all our decisions are made in the best interest of the people, culture and the environment of the Corangamite Shire. Amen. Amen. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land around Corangamite Shire, the Eastern Maar and Wadawurrung people. We pay our respects to all Aboriginal elders and peoples past, present and emerging. I'd like to introduce councillors and staff who are around the council table this evening. To my left is Deputy Mayor Geraldine Canady, Councillor Joe Beard and Councillor Jamie Vogels. To my right is Councillor Kate Macon, Councillor Laurie Hickey and Councillor Nick Cobb. Our CEO, Mr David Ray, is here for the very first meeting as our CEO. It's great to have David on board. We also have Mr David Harrington, he's Director of Corporate and Community Services. Ms Brooke Love, Director of Works and Services. Mrs Justine Linley, Director of Sustainable Development. Mr Aaron Moyne, Manager of Planning and Building. Mr Kevin Hazel, Strategic Planning Consultant. And importantly, on the night when we're dealing with budgets, Mr Simon Vicari, our Manager of Finance, and Mr Jared Wolf, Manager of Facilities and Recreation. Mr Ray, we have no apologies. Has there been any declarations of conflict of interest made?
Mayor, there's been no declaration of conflicts of interest.
Thank you. Councillors, the confirmation of minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of May. Someone like to move those minutes, please? Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vogels. Any questions? All in favour? Carried. We have no deputations or presentations this evening. No committee reports, so we're going straight to planning report. Unlocking housing Timboon, the delivery approach. Mr Moyne, could you introduce this item, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you I present Council with this report regarding the Unlocking Housing Timboon project in relation to the delivery approach. The purpose of this report is for Council as landowner to consider proceeding with Stage 1 residential subdivision of the land, which would deliver 8 new lots with infrastructure and services that unlock the site for future residential development. Council's been working on the Unlocking Housing Timboon project and developing the residential subdivision proposal following previous strategic planning and with support from the Victorian Government with funding through their Living Regions and Living Suburbs program. The Unlocking Housing Timboon project forms part of a broader work program Council's pursuing around residential growth and housing opportunities in the Shire. Rezoning of the land to enable the residential subdivision was approved by the Minister for Planning last week, supported through the Development Facilitation Program. That concludes the strategic planning for the sites. This report and recommendation stands alone from any future planning decisions of Council and seeks to ensure that an early decision and design planning can occur to advance the project and commence works when ready. An overview of the proposed residential subdivision for the full site is provided within the report, which includes a multi-lot subdivision for up to 35 lots. Stage 1 of the project has been developed for 8 lots to provide a focus to enable Council to start on the residential subdivision and unlocking the land. Significant costs for infrastructure arise in Stage 1, which will be covered by grant funding, and highlights the benefit of this type of funding for small councils in unlocking residential land. The report outlines plans for the approach and work program for Stage 1 and the balanced land, including other aspects such as key workers, who can purchase the lots and how this would be controlled. The project is a direct way for Council to play a role in delivery of market-ready service residential land supply in the Shire. Community engagement remains an important part of the project and will continue through the community reference group and with the wider Timboon community as the project continues to progress. Mayor, the recommendation is provided before you.
Thank you, Mr Moyne. Councillors, recommendation. Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Macon, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vogels. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, I'm very happy to move the officer's recommendation of this project. Council has been developing a proposal for residential subdivision of land it owns in Curtis Road, Timboon, for almost 2 years now. Tonight's recommendation is a major milestone for this project and one that I strongly support. It provides this council with a big opportunity to increase much needed residential land supply in the Shire. For Timboon, this need was identified in the Positioning Simpson and Timboon Strategy in 2020 and the Key and Essential Worker Housing Supply Action Plan in 2020 also. In fact, it has taken almost 2 years to get the planning and rezoning undertaken, a massive effort from our staff and strategic planners, given that it can take up to 5 years normally to get this work done. Only last week, the state government finally gazetted the rezoning of this land to residential, which now gives us confidence to proceed from the planning space to delivery. By proceeding with stage 1, we will see meaningful progress made to deliver land for housing in the Shire, benefiting from the Victorian Government grant and meeting the calls from the community to just get on with it. Council will be acting as developer, and with approval for the rezoning of the land now confirmed, and a planning permit application will be lodged in July 2023. Again, I am pleased to support this recommendation, and I just can't wait to get on with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Macon. Councillor Vocals.
Well, thank you through you, Madam Mayor. And Kate's covered most specifics. I think, and we'd like to thank the state government for the putting the money up to get this underway, because otherwise it is hard to get a development up when it's running at a loss to start with. So thanks to the state government, and a big thanks to the local community as well for their engagement and input into the discussion through many forums and the group meetings that we've had. And I think this development's looking the goods, and it's in no small part due to the high level of engagement from the community and by our council officers. And the insight and design that Kevin Hazel has brought to the table. So the staging of development this way is a smart option, and it keeps cost to a minimum until the blocks are sold to finance the next stages. So it's a smart way forward, and this is a big win for Timboon, and I'm looking forward to the commencement of construction and Kevin's vision moving from paper into actual reality. So thank you. I'm happy to pass this one too.
Thank you, Councillor Vocals. Councillors, other comments? Councillor Beard?
Yeah, I won't add too much more other than to say I think it's a big congrats to the organisation as a whole. I mean, obviously there's been a vision here, and it's quite innovative, and we're addressing a significant gap that has been identified, and in a town that has so much going for it. But obviously you can have so much more if you've got the residential assets to support that. So kudos to the planning department too for being able to help keeping us on the straight and narrow with this project. It seemed like such an out there kind of thing to begin with, and then to actually get to this point where we're looking at now at actually hitting the go button. It's pretty incredible. It's very inspirational, and I hope our communities are as proud as what we are sitting here tonight to get to this point. So good luck to particularly to the community for this next phase of the project.
Thanks, Councillor Beard. Councillors, anything extra? Nothing. And kudos to Mrs. Lindley. She's led this project from the beginning, and with Simpson as well. And Simpson's not far away. We're getting very excited about that project as well. And I can fully understand why the community are getting a little bit wondering where on earth, when is it going to get some legs. So here we are, we're starting, and it's exciting times. Councillors, I'll put it to a vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.1 is the budget 2023-2024. Mr. Vicari, please.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. This report is to consider and adopt the 23-24 budget, which incorporates the 23-24 fees and charges schedule. The draft budget includes $66.95 million of operating and capital expenditure that Council intends to deliver next year. The rate increase has been set at 3.5%, which is in line with the state government's rate cap, and no borrowings have been proposed for the 23-24 financial year. Council resolved at the May Council meeting to release the draft budget for public submissions, of which 5 were received. This budget aims to maintain Council's strong financial position in a really challenging environment, and it does include a significant capital works program. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr Vicari. Councillors, someone like to move the recommendation to adopt the budget? Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Beard, thank you. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. The draft budget has been out for submissions for some time now, and I would like to thank those that did provide submissions back to Council and for your perspectives. We do appreciate them, we do give them some consideration, and certainly it's a good opportunity to listen to what our ratepayers have to say about our draft budget. I won't go through the numbers again because it's there, the details in the report. Thank you, Mr Vicari, for that. But I will say, and saying probably a little bit of repetition here, that certainly we do pay a lot of regard to maintaining our strong financial position. And I think in today's environment, and knowing that there are headwinds before us, that it's really, really important that we keep a strong focus on that. Looking at our 10-year budget, we can see that our rate revenue changes very little, and government rates are trending down. So it is making it quite tricky to get balance in our spending, but we've tried to remain committed to delivery of quality and necessary services for our community, and our community expects us that, and they deserve it too. But we still need to be making provision for the future, and I think you heard a little bit of that in our previous item when we talked about positioning Timboon and Simpson. That's going to be an amazing project that's going to bring a lot of value to Corangamite Shire in the future. So we just need to be making that provision to support opportunity and prosperity for Corangamite. So our capital expenditure is a necessary component of that to manage our assets and also for new projects. We've allocated more than half of our 16 million plus capital expenditure to our council road network, and some of that to bridges as well. We obviously get a lot of feedback about our roads. It's very difficult to keep them well maintained, but we certainly are making our best efforts in that regard. Certainly we're continuing to work towards delivery of our Port Campbell town development, town centre development, and the 12 Apostles Trail. They're projects that have been multi-year projects. We're certainly putting all our efforts into progressing those and getting a great outcome for Corangamite. I do think the reserve transfers that we've built in for future large-scale projects are a sage thing. That's good accounting practice, I think. To make sure you've got something there for requisite expenditure like the landfill restoration, and it adds a layer of stability to the budget as well. Rates, of course, continue to be something of a vexatious issue, and certainly that was addressed in one of our submissions. But rates do represent 47% or thereabouts, I think, of our revenue, but that is returned to our communities in the form of services and upgrades and renewals, and we need that, to be functional. Everyone accesses the services and assets of the Corangamite Shire, and they're a necessity just to make our lives easier and more functional. Also, with regard to the rates, we are bound by state government rules and the rate cap, so that certainly puts some parameters.
Thank you, Mr
We're
Glazebrook.
not bound by the rate cap at all. That is an absolute lie.
Mr Glazebrook.
The councils are not bound by the rate cap. That is a lie. What do you think Warrnambool Council has done? That is a lie for Councillor Kennedy to say that.
Mr Glazebrook, can you take your seat, please, or I'll have to ask you to leave. Continue.
I'm not going to sit here and listen to lies.
Thank you.
That is a lie. You know that. Why don't you pick her up?
Can we suspend standing orders, please?
It's a lie. I will not sit here and
All in
listen
favour?
to Canadian tell people lies.
Jamie, second.
I apologise for that little break in transmission, but I'll ask councillors to move us back into standing orders. Councillor Vogels and Councillor Beard, all in favour? Carried. Councillor Canady, would you like to continue?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
So we are bound by state rules around the rate cap. We're not allowed to go above the rate cap that the state government sets, although there is some opportunity for variation. But in Corangamite we do try to make the system more fair by application of differential rates. Our debt-free status has been an asset in previous budgets, and we need to recognise that our funding environment is changing, and I think it is prudent that we explore opportunities for new revenue. That is seen in our 4-year budget, that where potential borrowing is factored in for a potential investment in commercial grade compost production. I think it's really wise to have a look at this and pursue that opportunity. The state government has funded us to complete a feasibility study. So whilst we might move back into borrowings territory, we already have the base components at the landfill, which have a strong potential to create a new source of revenue for our council. So I believe we do have a budget which meets our obligations to the community and our council plan, but it's forward-looking as well. So I certainly support the recommendation that's before us, and believe that we've done a pretty good job, I think, getting balance in this budget. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Beard.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. There's not a lot left to say, and I, like Councillor Kennedy, are probably not going to drill down into the individual projects that we should be proud of. I mean, I think we spent a lot of time on this budget like we do every year. It comes to us after a really stringent process of coming up throughout the organisation before it even comes to us in terms of officers working on that budget, you know, months on end before it even comes to us with recommendations. So I want to thank everybody for their role in getting it to the council table. We spoke at length about it when we released the draft budget, and it's quite, I guess it's satisfying when you know you only have minimal submissions. You know, we've got a population of almost 17,000 people across Corangamite Shire and only receive a handful of submissions, and a lot of them are actually quite positive in terms of supportive of what we've done with our budget. I think that speaks volumes of what we've done and what we've been able to get the budget to. For as long as I can remember, Corangamite Shire has had a long-term financial plan. That is something now that's legislated as a significant piece of framework that councils have to report on, which not every council did that in previous years. So it's a testament to our organisation that we've had a long-term financial plan and we stick to that. As soon as we manoeuvre even 1% in when we talk about our rate rises or you know, what we look at in terms of savings, if we want to manipulate the numbers at all, at the end of the day, it's a long-term financial plan that it tends to come under attack. And so we always don't think about the right nows, but we also think about the tomorrows and what sort of a legacy are we leaving as a council now for the oncoming councils in years to come. And that does have a detriment on the services that we are responsible for to deliver, but also what our community expects us to deliver. And that also comes to play when we talk about our asset management plan, you know, and people want us to, you know, look after maintenance around roads and footpaths, all the things that people expect us to do. All of that comes into planning, stringent planning, and then the long-term financial planning for that in the future years. So I just want to reiterate that we don't do a budget, you know, within, you know, it's not something that just happens in 5 minutes. It's a long-term process that the whole organisation is part of, and I'm really proud of the budget that we can still continually achieve great results in terms of service delivery, but also the projects for the broad communities that we service. So thanks to Council for getting us to this point. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Beard. Councillor Hickey.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. This is the third budget that I've been involved in, and the process is exhaustive. There's community consultation, there's consultation around the chambers, there's a lot of work that goes into this particular budget. And it does demonstrate a high degree of budgetary discipline to be able to return a budget of this calibre again this year. As a rural ratepayer, I understand the rates have increased. However, I'm prepared to look at the big picture and just see what the services we are delivering and the quality of what we're delivering. And we hear that the Simpson unlocking project that's coming up. We see the Timboon project that's just been passed. There's these wonderful works that are being done, and as a community budget or as a Shire budget goes, very proud to have been part of the development of it.
Thanks, Councillor Hickey. Councillors, any further comments? It certainly has been an exhaustive process, as councillors have said, and you know, we build the budget from the ground up every year. It's not a case of just, you know, adding a little bit on from last year. So it is a whole of organisation operation that takes many months to complete. And I know it is frustrating, Councillor Hickey, you talk about land valuations, and that's indeed what our rate base is done on, land valuation. So you have the issue quite often where people have a lot of assets, but you know, don't have the cash, so, and are paying massive rate bills. So we're certainly very conscious of that, and have continued in our differential rate, and our farm rate in particular is now down at 87.5% of the general rate. I think what the budget also shows is our reliance on grants, particularly the federal assistance grants, and we know we've seen budgets from state and federal governments recently, and there's certainly things are very, very tight right across the board. And when you link that in with the inflationary pressure we're seeing, lack of availability of workers, materials, resources, it's sort of almost turning into a perfect storm. But in saying that, people in Corangamite Shire, a lot of people are doing it hard. We're seeing massive spikes in electricity, gas, those sorts of utilities. And I'd really say to people, if you are experiencing financial difficulty, don't just ignore the rates. Please come in and talk to our rate staff, and we can work out a payment plan for you, because we don't want to put anyone under undue pressure. And in saying that too, that if anybody believes when they receive their rate notice that their valuation doesn't reflect the true value of their property, then we certainly encourage them to talk to the rates team and come in and have a talk to the valuers about perhaps getting that adjusted. So, councillors, on that note, the motion is before you. All those in favour? Carried. Item 9.2 is the Council Plan Review and Annual Action Plan for 23-24. Mr Ray, please.
Mayor, thank you, and through you, before you is a recommendation to adopt the Annual Action Plan for 23-24 financial year. The Annual Action Plan has been developed in conjunction with the now adopted 23-24 budget. It supports the delivery of key actions and initiatives identified through the budget development process. The actions cover a range of matters. There's over 50 of them there, and encompass areas such as economic development and the implementation of the Grow and Prosper framework, delivery of capital works, and also town structure plans. It also includes a range of environmental initiatives as well, including electric vehicles and pursuing precinct-scale renewable energy facilities for Camperdown Production Precinct. And importantly, it also supports the community and transitioning from our former delivery model for aged care into an access and inclusion model. As part of the development of the Annual Action Plan, the Council also took the opportunity to review the Council Plan and was seen fit the plan still remains appropriate. Mayor, the recommendations before you.
Thank you, Mr Ray. Councillors, someone like to move the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Macon, thank you. Councillor Hickey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This project, this plan actually sets out our activities and the actions for the coming year. And whilst we don't need to review the plan continually, it's good governance to be able to review it every 12 months. It is reflected in this year's budget we've just adopted. It's a very detailed paper. It's on the council website, so I encourage people to have a look at it. But it does give us a plan to move forward and to work towards for 2023 and 2024.
Thanks, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. But it's good to refresh our minds as to what we actually put our council plan to, and looking over it, we have definitely achieved a few things on there, and there's a few things more that we need to achieve. But all in all, it's still very relevant and very up to date of what we are doing. And I look forward to seeing what we can do in the next 12 months and see if we can tick a few more things off the council plan. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
So, thank you. Anything further, councillors? All in favour? Carried. Item 9.3, Chief Executive Officer Annual Report on the Performance and Activities of Community Asset Committees. Mr Ray, that's a mouthful.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, requirement under the Local Government Act, I'm required to report to Council in relation to the Community Asset Committees. Council has 19 Community Asset Committees which have delegated powers. This report, although late, is in relation to the 21-22 financial year, but it does mean Council meets its statutory requirements in relation to its obligations. It's important to note that during that period of time, the committees continue to be affected by the implications of COVID-19 pandemic, and particularly around re-engaging volunteers to deliver the functions delegated to those committees. And as part of, I guess, the obligations in respect to reporting the activities of those committees, a more substantive report will come to Council before the end of this calendar year. So the recommendation is before you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Ray. Councillors, someone move this item, please. Thanks, Councillor Beard. Seconded, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Beard.
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Where would we be without these 19 community asset committees really, each of them serving a purpose in their own right for the betterment of assets within their community. So we're very lucky. There's some really passionate volunteers that do give out a lot of their time to make the assets that they're overseeing as good as they can be for the benefit of everybody to enjoy and to utilise. It's interesting, years gone by, these committees that often just bubble away in the background, we are aware of them, but to now the new reporting mechanisms, I guess, shines a bit more of a brighter light on what the reporting and what they actually do and achieve. It sort of comes to the fore now. But thank you, Mr. Ray, for the report. But yeah, as I said, I don't know where we'd be without these committees, because we can't possibly, well, the organisation can't possibly look after everything to the capacity that's expected of them, or that these facilities deserve on behalf of the community. So we're very lucky.
Thanks, Councillor B. Councillor Hickey.
I'd just add that this is very much tied to the annual action plan as well, so the two documents work pretty much hand in hand, and it is through the work of the 19 committees managing these assets that we are able to deliver a lot of our plan. And it's a credit to those committees, and I also would like to thank them for putting their hand up and being involved in the management of our assets. And I have no hesitation in recommending that this be adopted.
Thanks, Councillor Hickey. Anything further, councillors? All in favour? Carried. Item 9.4 is the Community Satisfaction Survey for 2023. Mr. Ray.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you. The Community Satisfaction Survey is an independent survey completed annually, and it surveys 400 residents representative of the Shire. For 2023, Corangamite had a slight fall in core performance measures. However, that fall is in line with the rest of the local government sector across the state, but also including large rural shires. However, the overall performance remains unchanged at 66. The results for 2023 indicate a continuation of strong satisfaction with council's performance when compared to large rural shires and the state as a whole. And Corangamite outperforms large rural shire results by an average of 10 points in all core measures. In terms of the non-core measures, Corangamite does perform exceedingly well when compared to its peer group large rural shire averages for the 19 service areas, and in particular significantly higher with statewide averages as well. Corangamite's best performing areas are the appearances of public areas, emergency and disaster management, as well as COVID-19 response and art centres and libraries. Disappointingly, and not surprisingly, the lowest rated areas continue to be unsealed roads and sealed local roads, and slushing and weed control. And councillors, I just congratulate you on the results, and also acknowledge the hard work by the organisation over many years that are also reflected in the survey. I've recommended you note the results, councillors, and authorise publication on the website.
Thanks, Mr. Ray. Councillors, someone like to move this report? Councillor Macon, Councillor Cole. Councillor Macon.
Go, Councillor Cole. Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. This is, even though we were a little bit disappointed, we sort of looked at it and went, oh, is that all? But realistically, we're still punching well above our weight. To be way ahead, or not way ahead, but still ahead of other large rural shires and the statewide is a fantastic result for the organisation, and we should all be congratulated for what we have achieved over the past 12 months. It's just, and I must make a special recommendation or shout out to the customer service team. They're at the forefront of everyone's phone calls, and they meet everyone face to face, and they see each other, all the customers all the time, and they do a great job down there. That they absolutely do, and they represent our organisation just fantastically, and I just shout out to them. They do a fantastic job, and they should be congratulated for what they do. Yes, I know our roads are not great, but I just do point out that maybe some of the roads that you are driving on are not actually our roads, they are state roads. So we just need to make you aware that we're not taking anything away, that our roads are not fantastic or up to scratch. It has been a wet season, it has been hard. We do the best work we can, and with the facilities and the with what we've got at hand. And so I must congratulate the works team for what they do in the circumstances. But some roads that we are travelling on a day-to-day basis are a state road, and they're the roads that we need to go back to Rural Roads Victoria and tell them to fix their roads, and hopefully that message will get to them loud and clear. But I must make note that people are very happy with our recreational facilities, our arts centres and libraries, which is great considering we changed over library management systems, our waste management, planning and building permits. As we know through COVID, that's all just gone through the roof, and we're doing a great job with the planning. So congratulations to the planning team, and tourism overall has just been great. So even though we were a little bit bummed when we first opened this document, we shouldn't be. We should be quite congratulative of what we've achieved in this time, and really hold our heads high, because we are doing quite well as a Shire as a whole. So well done.
Thank you, Councillor Macon. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to congratulate the staff at the desk, the front line. They're the ones that cop it, and they're high, across the board. We're 10% higher as a fairly rough average across other shires of every size. And I know we took a bit of a beating, as Councillor Macon said, on our roads. And I think if people look up Google Maps, they will see which road is a local road, which road is a state road. The ones that are coloured and with a C or a name and number are state roads, and if they've got no name, no road colouring or number, they're a council road. The other one was the slashing of the grass. This year was a very hard one to do because the grass grew very quickly and it got wet, and the tractors couldn't get around a lot of spots, so we were left with a lot of long grass in a lot of spots that no one was happy with, including the Shire. But only got a limited team doing those jobs, so unfortunately we got there eventually. But it takes time, and you can't do every road in one hit. So I congratulate the staff and the officers on getting this rating, because it's their work that they're putting in to get all this. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cole. I think it's worth mentioning that one of the best aspects of Corangamite Shire are the councillors. So I think we'll take that pat on the back. Is there any further comments on the satisfaction survey? Councillor Canadian and Councillor Beard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm actually pretty proud that we can say that we perform significantly better than the averages across the large rural shires. I'm really happy about that. So I think it's a great achievement, because we've been able to maintain that level of performance for some years now. Having said that, I think that the survey actually gives us a great tool to measure opportunities that we have for improvement as well. And some of those items have been stated by our other councillors. So I think it serves as a useful, informative survey as well. And as for customer service, I'd like to point out too that customer service occurs through every level of the organisation. It doesn't matter what the role of people in our organisation have. They are very often providing customer service. So I think everyone deserves congratulations for that really great result. And I'm also happy about our community engagement and consultation, which also rated very well. It doesn't mean that we would rest on our laurels with regard to that, but it's nice to know that we are engaging at a good level, and I think we would definitely be making sure that we continue to maintain that level of engagement. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Canady. Councillor Beard.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. I'm really glad Councillor Canady just stole the words right out of my mouth then about customer service, and I think we often forget that. I'm assuming when the question's asked about how people rate customer service, I think every engagement, whether they even have it with even us as councillors, or if I'm looking at Mr. Waff over there, I know you make many phone calls to people and you're engaging with the staff day in, with our ratepayers day in and day out. To me, that's still customer service. So I think that is a reflection on the entire organisation. I think for as many years as I can remember, that's always sat as our number one credit to the organisation. So again, congratulate. We've got high expectations though, because we've always been sitting at such a high number. And so when we see just the slightest little dip, we start, as Councillor Macon said, we're a little bit disappointed. But when you look at it across in the comparative way around our peers, we're still just really doing extremely well. And but it's because our expectation, I guess, is really high of ourselves. It's also worth mentioning the importance of our response around emergency management, but also the COVID-19. It's incredible. We keep having these emergency hits, and most recent, obviously, was the Skipton floods, and the whole organisation, right from this, the mayor to the councils, the CEO, and then every staff member below that, just roll up the sleeves and they get in and they react and they respond and provide that relief and recovery. And it's great to see that that's being recognised through the feedback that we get from the community. And obviously we're still, COVID-19 is still lingering, but it's great to see that the organisation is still being recognised for the work that they're doing in that space. I just wish it was gone already, but anyway, it's still about. And can I just, a quick mention about the state of the roads. I actually spoke with the Director of Works and Services, Brooke Love, today and requested I'm going to take her for a drive to show her some significant road hazards, and they're not on our roads. They're ones that have come to me through a customer request or a ratepayer saying to me, can you go and have a look at this problem? And it's not our roads, it's actually regional roads, it's Vic Roads land, but that's our role, is to advocate for them on their behalf. So I'm not going there to take photos and to make a mockery of our roads at all. It's actually the state's road. So all we can do is try and educate our ratepayers as much as we can, but I don't see that as a true reflection of what our organisation does.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillors, anything further? It just should be worth noting that we've decided to do the customer satisfaction survey this year in 4 rounds of 100 ratepayers each round, rather than doing it all in February, March. We're spreading it across the year. So if people might get a phone call, I would really appreciate your feedback. Councillors, I'll put this to a vote. All in favour? Carried. 9.5 is the nature strip planting policy. Mr. Wolf, thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, the nature strip planting policy has been developed to provide direction for the planting of council-owned nature strips by adjacent property owners in the urban areas of Corangamite Shire. The policy has been reviewed with minimal changes proposed, including an update to reference documents, a review of maintenance responsibilities and consideration of gender equality. The policy outlines the responsibilities of a landowner who wishes to develop their nature strip with plantings to ensure that safety, function and aesthetics of the footpath, roadway and other infrastructure are not impacted. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Councillors, thank you. Councillor Hickey, do I have a seconder? Councillor Vogels, thank you. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the first of a number of policies we're getting through tonight, so I won't bang on too much about this. It's important to have a policy in place so that landowners understand their obligations as far as safety and access to driveways and to emergency services. The changes are quite minor, so I'm quite happy to move this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, Mayor. And I thought I'd get in early on a night of a heap of policies as well, and I think what I'll say will probably cover most of the policies that come up tonight, but this policy does have minimal changes, and after the review, most policies tonight are pretty much the same with minimal changes, but these policies, they do pull together information from legislative, legal and legal documents, council's vision, action plans and so on, and put it into a policy sort of as a go-to document, so that everyone can go to this document and be on the same page, and not just on the same page but on the right page. So they're very important documents. So I've got mine out of the way for the night.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Nothing further, councillors? Councillor Beard?
I'm sorry, I can't help, because Mr. Woff is here, that one of the significant track changes was that this policy now sits under his management of facilities and recreation as opposed to the works manager. So we've added to his workload, but I think it's a reflection of that we see our nature strips as part of that open space, and a recreational space for our residents as well. So I think that was a good fit to move that over to Mr Woff's department.
Very good. Nothing further, councillors. All in favour? Carried. Mr Woff, the urban street trees management policy.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, the Urban Street Tree Management Policy provides strategic direction for the management of Corangamite Shire's urban street trees. The policy has been reviewed and, as mentioned already, minimal changes proposed. It has been developed to formalise and guide the way in which Council manages its tree assets and assists Council in meeting its obligations under the relevant codes, legislation and Australian standards. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr Woff. Councillors. Councillor Canady, seconder. Councillor Cole. Councillor Canady.
Thank you. I mean, these policy updates are largely procedural, but I do like that in this report it's been noted about our significant tree legacy in Corangamite. And when you look around our towns, we do have some really beautiful trees and beautiful avenues. So I'm glad that they're valued in that way and that we have developed a policy specifically to take care of those beautiful natural assets. I also like here that where the framework looks at providing a whole of life tree management procedure rather than shorter term removal and replacement approach. I think that's great. That's the right way to manage our trees. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the beautiful streetscapes that we have. So I've got nothing more to say to it other than those two little items, and I certainly could support the recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor Canady. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Councillor Canady. I do like my trees. I like them in avenues and in plantations and everywhere, but I don't like them right beside a road. So this sort of sets out to keep the area safe. We plant a tree and it's got to be in a safe spot. So the roads are safe and everyone's safe as well. So anyway, thank you. Amen.
Thank you. Anything further, councillors? All in favour? Carried. 9.7 is the Trails Management Policy. Mr Woff.
Thank you, and through you again, Madam Mayor. The Trails Management Policy is a guide to the maintenance and management arrangements for trails across the Corangamite Shire. The policy has been reviewed in accordance with the strategic context of trail provision across the region and in Victoria. There are a number of trails throughout the Shire providing recreational opportunities for residents and visitors to the region. And Council's role varies from minimal involvement to complete responsibility for trail management and maintenance. This report recommends only minor changes, but does identify the 12 Apostles Trail and looks to ensure that the trails are managed and maintained appropriately into the future. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr Woff. Councillors, someone like to move this? Councillor Macon, thank you. Councillor Hickey. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Trails are identified as providing an opportunity to improve the physical health of our community by increasing levels of physical activity. The community highly values paths and trails for the opportunity they provide for walking, running and bike riding, and we saw this highly through COVID, how people love their trails and how to get out and about and still enjoy the fresh air. And we're seeing that more with tourism. More and more people are coming down to see our trails and see how great they are, considering we've just completed, or nearly completed, should I say, the 12A's trail, which just adds to another a bow in our arrow, you could say. But it is also important that we outline who is responsible for each of these trails and who maintains and who is funding. So it is very well set out in this policy, so I'm more than happy to support this policy going forward. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Macon. Councillor Hickey.
Nothing much to add other than to say that I am an avid trail user, but I was surprised to see there's 14 of them across the Shire, so I'd better get moving and just go and see a few more of the others. But it's encourage everyone to get out there and use these trails. They're fantastic and they're safe.
Yeah, terrific. Nothing further, councillors. All in favour? Carried. The Heavy Vehicle Access Policy. Ms Love, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, councillors, this report seeks the adoption of the revised Heavy Vehicle Access Policy, which has been reviewed and recommends only minor changes. This policy sets out the process for council assessing applications for access or load limit increases to the local road network by higher productivity freight vehicles and oversized vehicles. The recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Ms Love. Councillors, someone like to move this policy? Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Canady. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Another important policy as with productivity gains through the larger trucks and stuff that we keep on top of where they're going, and not that they're pretty much designed to have no heavier footprint on the road surface, spread out well over a load, but probably concerning when they're going over a bridge. I might do a barappa, which would be not very good. So it's a good policy to have in place and to keep updated with, to keep on top of the change in trucks.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually think this particular policy is probably a little bit more important than might appear at face value, because we really rely very heavily on our freight vehicles to support our ag and processing industries. So they're particularly important in Corangamite. So, we need to know that they can travel efficiently and safely on our roads, and definitely it's very important that drivers understand load policies on whatever roads that they're travelling on. I think they're designated, aren't they, Ms Brooks? So I do think this policy is particularly important because that freight industry is just essential.
Paramount.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Councillors, all in favour? Carried. The school bus shelters policy, Ms Love.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, councillors, this report recommends council approve the reviewed school bus shelters policy, which aims to confirm the process for establishment and ongoing maintenance of school bus shelters. The school bus network is administered by Public Transport Victoria as an arm of the Department of Transport and Planning. Now, in accordance with the Code of Operational Responsibility, PTV actually have responsibility for shelters that they control, if they assumed control. So hence, the requests for installation of new bus shelters will be referred to Public Transport Victoria, and they will consider them on a case-by-case basis. Alternatively, locals can erect a shelter on council land under the Works on Road Reserve permit, because that shelter is servicing a Public Transport Victoria school bus network. So council, this policy does suggest that requests for relocation of an existing shelter will be reviewed by council and negotiated with the requestees. So the policy, or the recommendation, pardon me, is before you.
Thank you, Ms Love. Someone like to move this recommendation? Councillor Beard. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lincoln. Councillor Beard.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and I thought I'd better get in on one of these policies sooner or later. Thank you, Ms Love, and obviously that you pretty much summed the entirety of that policy up. And I remember back when it was quite exciting through the budget process where we get to allocate, I think it was 2 bus shelters was what, as council, we were able to recommend per financial year, and so it's nice to see that we actually don't have to go through that process anymore. But what I do encourage is for anybody out there who knows that there's a bus shelter being unutilised and there's possibly an area where it could be better utilised, is to get in contact with PTV or Public Transport Victoria, and or even, if they were to contact even the bus companies who pick up the school kids, will usually point them in the right direction as well. But it is important that we still have a role to play in terms of how the structure is built on council land. So there is still a little bit of oversight there. But as I said, there's a lot of bus shelters out there are probably underutilised, and there's probably some kids out there screaming for a bit of shelter. So again, just putting it out there to the community to perhaps get in contact with PTV if they've got any issues or concerns.
I think Councillor Beard, Ms Love, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that to come, if they've got requests for relocation, they come to us and we can facilitate that. But it's at the cost of PTV or the residents, is that
right?
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I don't have a lot to add. I think Councillor Beard stole all my thunder, but that's okay. I'd just say that I encourage people to get in contact with Public Transport Victoria about bus shelters. It's very important for our kids to get to and from school very safely, and they need to be able to be standing on the side of the roads very safely and not be in danger of anything. So I'm more than happy to support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Macon. Anything further, councillors? All in favour? Carried. The final policy is the universal ramps on footpaths policy. Ms Love.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, the reviewed universal access ramps on footpaths policy provides guidance and confirmation of the process for the application, the assessment and construction of universal access ramps where building owners are not able to feasibly accommodate a ramp within their property boundaries. In the last 3 years, there has been no ramps installed on footpaths, but in the past, this policy has proven successful. So there is there is only minor changes recommended.
Thanks.
Recommendation is before you.
Is someone to move this recommendation? Councillor Hickey, Councillor Cole, second. Thank you, Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, another important policy, but the changes are very minimal, just to bring us into line with the Charter of Human Rights and the Gender Equality Act. So happy to move this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thought I'd second this because Darlington doesn't have any of them, footpaths or ramps. So we can rest easy up there, like Scott's Creek. Thank you. No further to add.
Thank you. Councillors, I'll put it to a vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 911 is contract 2023-018, the construction of Camperdown Timboon rail trail bridges. Mr Waff, please.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, the purpose of this report is to recommend the award of contract 2023-018, which is the supply and installation of bridges 14 and 15 on the Camperdown Timboon rail trail. A competitive tender process has been undertaken to recruit a suitably qualified and experienced contractor to complete that project. There was one submission received through that process. A panel of experienced personnel from Camperdown Timboon Rail Trail Committee and Council undertook an evaluation of that submission, which included a detailed review, reference checks, further information requests from the contractor, and a panel meeting to discuss. The panel have considered the capabilities, experience, and previous works of that tenderer and provided a recommendation of award for Council's resolution. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr Wolf. So is it just Bridge 13 that remains, we've got to still chase some funding for? Someone like to move this recommendation? Councillor Macon. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vogels, thank you. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr Wolf, for this report and recommendation. I think we need to do everything possible to keep this Camperdown to Timboon Rail Trail open. These bridges are vitally important, and it's great that we have got a contractor out there that's happy to take this, or is willing to take this work on. I do read in the report that if we did these bridges in January, February, the committee got a $30,000 discount, and I believe the committee have taken up this offer. Is that right, Mr Woff?
Yes, and through you, Madam Mayor. That's
yep,
correct,
sure.
Yes.
So, and I think that's great. Any saving anywhere that they can make is a fantastic saving, and 30,000 is nothing to be sneezed at, that's for sure. But it is great these bridges are being replaced, and it'll be great for the Rail Trail Committee and great for the trail in itself. So thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. Also, same as Councillor Macon, just excited to see someone's put in a tender for this and it's going ahead. Safety probably first. I think at the moment a lot of people are using the bridges still. So we need to get them done, and just glad to see it get done. But I think it's the costs are probably 20% higher than expected, I would think, which is just another reminder of the pressures on the organisation at the moment. With the, we're also suffering the cost of living increase, or whatever how you'd like to put it. But obviously the money's there, and plus with the $30,000 per bridge discount to do it at January, February, take that up, and that's just can only be good. So happy to second that.
Thanks, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Beard.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, and I'm really sorry, Mr. Wolf, but I am going to throw a question without notice of you, but I know you'll be up for it. Knowing when we had the bridges needing replacing last time, and there was a bit of contexture, a bit of uncertainty around the trail being closed, and there was a bit of confusion out in the community about that. Knowing these works won't be occurring till January, February, according to the contractor, to obtain that $30,000 discount. Assumption is that the bridges are currently safe for use. How will that be communicated so we don't have a repeat of last time where there was some uncertainty? And it's not our asset, but I know that you did work closely with the Trail Committee to help guide them through how they could better, I guess, portray what was going on out in the community.
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Beard, the bridges have been assessed by an engineer, and that assessment has shown that they're safe. Bridge 13, which is the bridge that is seeking funding, and we do not have funding secured as yet, is probably in the worst condition. It's been propped by an engineering company, and that is considered safe at this point in time. Those bridges will continue to be monitored with the Committee of Management to ensure that they continue to remain safe and that the trail remains open on an ongoing basis.
Until further notice.
Until further notice.
Anything further, councillors? Just make note, substantial investment in these bridges by RDV and DCAP, which is greatly appreciated, and as well as the Rail Trail Committee contributing some of their funds. So good partnerships all round to get these works done. All in favour, councillors? Carried. 9.12 is contract 2024-011, external plant hire and associated services to the Corangamite Shire. Ms. Love, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, we have a substantial program of works in any one financial year, and additional plant and labour is required to supplement Council's own plant and labour and fleet to ensure that we can deliver on our capital works program. The contract for external plant hire and associated services has gone to market for tender. A list 26 tenderers are recommended for inclusion. The list of recommended tenderers will enable Council to select suitable plant and labour and equipment at the most beneficial rate in order for us to deliver on our road construction maintenance programs and other infrastructure projects. 15 new contractors have submitted to the tender process, and 4 of those new contractors have already done work for Council through a quotation process in the past and have completed works to Council's satisfaction. These contractors actually provide a specialised equipment and so therefore provide a vital role for us in our delivery. The availability of contractors at the moment is really difficult and it is playing on our project delivery timeframes. So the more options that we have available to us, the better. In terms of assigning works, we certainly look at a number of factors. Lowest price is not always necessarily accepted. We will consider engaging a contractor based on availability, urgency of works, location, and indeed their skills and expertise in specific plant and equipment. Whilst at the same time this schedule's in place, we will seek quotations for construction and specialised works and larger complex works, and can do that by ensuring that we invite the tenderers on this panel to also submit to a quotation process. Councillors, there's a list of proposed tenderers, 26 in total, to award for the next 2 years a schedule of rates contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Love. Councillors, I'd like to move this. Thank you, Councillor Cole. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vogels. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. I'm very happy to move this. I believe not many businesses own every tool that they need or have every bit of expertise that they need, and the only way to get it is quite often contracting out to do the jobs, and it's the most efficient way. I think most businesses do it. Farmers and other industrial people contract out to get other equipment, to get out of their expertise, and you can use it quickly and efficiently in that job, and then you don't have to have it sitting in the yard for a long time. So I'm very happy to move this. Council, do this. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cole. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, agree with Nicholas on all that. 26 to choose from, and I think that's good to have that many actually put in, considering that people are hard to get. Well, we don't have every piece of equipment, nor should we, and we might have a shed load of experience, but obviously we can't cover everything, so it's just so much better to get stuff in when you need it rather than have it sitting there. It costs a lot of money for a lot of equipment to have it sitting around, and it's probably also good tick off for the circular economy and sustainability to not have machines just sitting there when they're just hiring when you need them, so they're in service where they're needed somewhere around the area. So that's all good, and I'm more than happy to thank Brooke and her team for going through all this and picking out the people that can supply what we need when we need it.
Thanks, Councillor Vogels. Councillors, any further? All in favour? Carried. 9.13 is the facility design grants for 22-23. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, the purpose of this report is to approve the allocation of funds for Council's Facility Design Grants program for the years 2022-2023. Council supports clubs and organisations in renewing or upgrading facilities to be fit for purpose and to meet the needs of users. This funding program enables clubs to fund schematic designs and quantity surveyor costs for the redevelopment of existing facilities or for new facilities, which support the principles of universal design and relevant facility guidelines. Funding of up to $7,500 was available to eligible applicants, with applications closing on the 12th of May. In total, 3 submissions were received, requesting almost $20,000. The applications were assessed independently by 3 council officers in accordance with the assessment criteria, and all 3 applications have been recommended for funding. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Councillors, I'd like to move this. Councillor Hickey, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cole. Councillor Hickey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm very happy to move this recommendation from the council. It's very important that organisations do have a plan when they are going to spend some money, and to make sure that they meet the design qualifications or criteria. So you're very happy to move that the 3 organisations be funded as directed.
Thank you. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Councillor Hickey. It's important to have the designs right, cost estimates down pat as well, because it's all a bit hard and tricky at the moment, but if you've got some of that sorted, it makes a big difference, and it's good to see it's being spread around a few different places and doing what I'd call accessible toilets and kitchen facilities, etc., etc. Make life a little bit easier around the traps. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cole. Councillors, anything further on this one? It was just interesting at the ALGA conference, which we'll hear a bit in a moment, the next item. Catherine King, the federal member for Ballarat and also Minister for Regional Development, stressed that projects need to be shovel-ready when you're going for grants. So, this facility design grant certainly is going to hopefully help these projects get across the line when we're looking for funding. So there's no point in going and asking federal or state government for a project that you haven't done all the work for. So it's a good grant fund. Councillors, I'll put this to a vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.14 is the ALGA National General Assembly report on attendance. Mr. Ray.
Mayor, thank you, and through you. The report provides the record of attendance that yourself, Mayor, Councillor Cole, Macon and Vogels attended on behalf of Corangamite Shire. That attendance took place during the period of 13th to the 16th of June in Canberra. It commenced with the the Regional Cooperation Development Forum, followed by 2 days of the National General Assembly, and then concluding with the Australian Council of Local Government. Mayor, over 1,000 delegates participated over the course of the week, representing over 500 councils, and the event is really quite significant for council to advocate on behalf of its community interests, but also to hear in terms of what is happening in the sector in a national sense, and also gain insight into a range of issues affecting local government. And so, Mayor, the recommendation is for you to receive the report.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Councillors, would like to move that motion? Councillor Macon, do I have a seconder? Councillor Cole, thank you. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, and I'd like to just say thank you for the opportunity of going to this conference. It was a great opportunity to go. We got to meet with other like-minded councillors and do lots of networking, which was fantastic, and just to see that the issues that we're facing are the same issues that they're facing: housing shortage, key workers, volunteers, and things like that, and local roads and everything. Recovery from, well, we are still recovering from COVID, so recovery from COVID and being able to build the things that we want to build. So it just shows that we're not alone in these issues, and that we all need to work together to advocate to the federal government that we do still need funding and we still need help into getting all these things going. It was great to meet and see our local federal member, Dan Teen, and have a chat to him with the other neighbouring councillors, and just to tell him what is going on down here. He visits quite regularly, but just to let him know that what is happening with housing and everything else, just to give a bit more of a hands-on feel. And with over 500 councils represented there, it's just a great opportunity to see people from the very tip of Australia to the very bottom of Australia, just to see and hear what is going on, and just to be able to reconnect with everyone again. So I very well appreciate the opportunity of going, and I valued my time there. So thank you very much to the Corangamite Shire. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Macon. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Yeah, I appreciated the time up there. It was very interesting. The one thing I did observe up there was that there seems to be a bit of a divide. The rural councils and the city councils are two different animals, so to speak. I'm talking to a woman from Western Australia, and they have the same problem as we do, basically, but over a much bigger area, roads. They're having trouble getting their local airstrip repaired so the flying doctor can land, which I would have thought was a laydown was there to be fixed, but they're having trouble. And we seem to be facing the same sorts of things, roads and distances and etc. Whereas the city councils seem to have a different kettle of problems. It's there seems to be that big divide once again of the two councils. But it was a very, very interesting thing to meet all the other councillors from lots of other areas and see what's going on. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cole. Anything further? Councillor Vocals.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, and also appreciate the opportunity of going up to Canberra and mixing it up with a lot of other councillors from all over Australia. And like Nick Cole said, I think I talked to a lot of councillors from all over Australia, from rural and remote, like really remote. I think one councillor's ward's nearly the size of Victoria. If he goes to a meeting, it's a 2-day trip. It's but the same issues, exactly the same. You know, they just can't get the funding to the ground, or the funding's not landing where they think they should need it and stuff. And also talk to some city mayors and stuff, and completely different issues where we're trying to attract population. They're trying not to, because they're just overloaded, overwhelmed, they haven't got the infrastructure to deal with the people they got with more coming in. So it's interesting to talk to them, as well as talking to similar, like council from the same council but different councillors, and getting completely different stories from different people within the actual same council. So well worth the effort, and definitely learned a lot. And also I'd like to thank Dan and team for taking us into Parliament to his office for a yak with all our local councils. It was kind of him, and Nicholas better remember to bring his licence next time so Dan doesn't have to personally come down and vouch for him to get him into Parliament. Thank
There's
you.
always someone.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels, and I probably can't reiterate enough the importance of going to these congresses, because it just shows the strength of local government. 1,100 delegates there, and the Australian ALGA have been heavily lobbying the federal government to increase the amount on the FAGS grants back to 1% of GST. Currently, it's sitting at 0.5%. So by being there, it certainly is a show of strength that the value the local government has. Excuse me. Is there anything further, councillors? I'll put it to a vote. All in favour? Receive the report. Thank you. Item 9.15, the S11A Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation Planning and Environment Act 1987. Mr. Ray, please.
Mayor, thank you, through you. A largely procedural matter, but nevertheless an important matter that empowers staff to discharge functions under the Act, being the Planning and Environment Act. Due to personnel changes, the instrument has been updated and is reflected following the appointment of myself and other members of staff, and the recommendation is for you.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Someone like to move that item? Thank you, Councillor Beard. Seconder. Councillor Hickey, Councillor Beard.
Yeah, purely procedural, and I can't wait to see our new CEO overseeing planning decisions. No, well and truly equipped to do that. But yeah, definitely just a few minor adjustments there, but otherwise something we need to be mindful of and voting on.
Thank you. Councillor Hickey?
No, nothing further, just allows the officers to complete their roles as required.
We'll put that to a vote. Councillors, all in favour? Carried. Item S11B, Instrument and Appointment of Authorisation, and S18, Instrument of Subdelegation, Environment Protection Act. Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Mayor, and not dissimilar to the previous report, this time in relation to the Environment Protection Act, and reflects changes to personnel. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone like to move this one? Thank you, Councillor Canady. Seconded, Councillor Macon. Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to say to this. I think it's self-explanatory.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Macon?
No, nothing further. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I'll put it to a vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.17, Quick Response Grants Allocation for the final one for the financial year. Mrs. Linley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Quick Response Grants program has a fixed budget that Council provides annually for the distribution of funds to community groups throughout the Shire. The program has a rolling intake, and this approach allows Council to allocate smaller amounts of money to various groups, resulting in positive outcomes for the community. For the month of June, 8 applications were received, in total exceeding the remaining budget for this financial year, unfortunately. So on this basis, officers recommend that 3 of the 8 applications be funded for June, namely the application from the Lismore Darrenellum Football Netball Club to replace a damaged public address system, the application from the Lismore Progress Association to pay for screening rights, and the application from the Carpendeep Public Hall and Recreation Committee to replace an oven. For the remaining 5 applications, officers recommend that Council defer consideration of those applications to the 2023-24 financial year, and the applications recommended for deferral are from the Terang Golf Club, the Rotary Club of Cobden, the Cobden Information Centre, and the Cobden Recreation Reserve Committee of Management and the Southwest Model Engineers. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mrs. Linley. Councillors, someone like to move this? Thank you, Councillor Cole. It's a surprise. Councillor Hickey. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I noticed 2 of the applications are from the north, with Darrenellum Lismore Football Club and the Lismore Progress Association. So we've caught up again last. As I said, they're only small things, and they're only they mean a lot to the club, the public address system, so that if it was me there, the coach could yell at me telling me what to do. Lismore Progress Association to pay for screening rights for films, and Carpendeep to replace an oven. They're all essential things in their own little right. They're small items, but they're big ticket items to a small organisation, which is what these things are all about.
Thanks, Councillor Cole. Councillor Hickey.
No, thanks, Mayor. The small grants are very important to a lot of small groups. It's important to make sure the clubs do look at the criteria and follow the guidelines. And of course, clubs and committees are always encouraged to spend their grants within the Corangamite Shire. So happy to second this.
Thank you. Anything further, councillors? All in favour? Carried. Councillors, that concludes the agenda. Is there any other business that needed to be raised this evening? No? Okay. Open forum. Mr Glazebrook has submitted a question in open forum. So will the council now modify its hardship policy in view of the challenges impacting this community as outlined in his budget submission? Mr Harrington, I think you've got an answer for Mr Glazebrook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. So Council will be reviewing its hardship policy given the recent changes to the Local Government Act relating to payment plans, recovery of debt and interest rates. Council will ensure that the hardship policy continues to comply with the requirements of the Local Government Act. The current hardship policy allows for rates and interest to be waived in certain circumstances relating to genuine hardship. Council rates are considered a tax and not a user pays system, and generally taxes such as income tax or payroll tax are not waived by other levels of government. Council is also looking at introducing a fees and charges waiver policy to provide consistency and appropriate delegations for officers to provide fee relief in appropriate circumstances. These measures identified are deemed appropriate given the scope of issues that Corangamite Shire can impact. Some of the other challenges relating to the cost of living, GPs and bulk billing that Mr Glazebrook raised in his budget submission are best handled by other levels of government that have the legislative power and resources to be able to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Harrington. Mr Rowe, is there any questions that come in on the live stream?
No, there's no questions I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, councillors and officers. Thanks to those who may be watching at home. Next meeting, we'll talk to you in July. Okay, thank you.